aerospace and defense manufacturing,
machines and automation,
additive manufacturing,
smart manufacturing,
global manufacturing economy.
Hello and welcome to Advanced Manufacturing Now, the podcast for manufacturing professionals. Make sure to like and subscribe to get new episodes delivered to your feed each week. I'm Amy Bryson, contributing lead editor of Smart Manufacturing Magazine. And today I'm joined by SME Media Editor-in-Chief Steve Plumb and Media Content Operations Manager, or as I like to call him, the Swiss Army knife of SME Media, Chris Mahar, to talk about the final issue of Smart Manufacturing Magazine, as well as the evolution of smart content into a brand new print and digital offering that SME Media will launch in August. So a new era for all of us. Steve and Chris, always good to chat with you.
You as well, Amy. It's kind of a bittersweet moment, but exciting too.
Yeah, just like life. So, the June issue of Smart really marks the end of an era, and it's a 10-year run for a publication that started as a way to give readers not just the intelligence, but the insights needed to learn and thrive in an increasingly tech-forward world. So Smart set out to provide tools, resources, and expert advice to facilitate efficient manufacturing for a host of industries like aerospace, defense, automotive, medical, and energy, with topics that centered around, things pivotal to Industry 4.0, advanced automation, additive manufacturing, smart data management, and really modernizing traditional operations to compete and succeed in an increasingly competitive landscape. And I know, Chris, I've been around for a couple of years here helming Smart, but you've been around really for the totality of it. I'd love to get your thoughts and kind of a retrospective on Smart and kind of what it means for you and what it means for us as we evolve into a new era.
Yeah, it's great to be here, and it's a little weird, I guess, to think of myself as the old man in the room, at least when it comes to tenure. But, when SME launched Smart Manufacturing, it was a big deal for the organization, and it was a bit of us putting our flag in the ground on the then a bit more burgeoning and starting up of Industry 4.0 smart technologies that were really gaining steam. So SME Media, we brought on Brett Brune, who was the original and former editor-in-chief of Smart Manufacturing, and we launched in the spring of 2016. I know that first issue, we highlighted 30 visionaries who were merging the cyber and physical worlds together. And that was really our key launch to the publication of saying this is something that the industry needs to be paying attention to. But I think what we see now with the merging of manufacturing engineering and smart manufacturing together into the new manufacturing engineering and technology is, as Steve said, it's a bit bittersweet, but it really does show the power that Industry 4.0 and these smart technologies have grown to become. When we launched Smart Manufacturing, it was a smaller segment of the industry that was really engaging with these technologies in this area. And today, sensors, big data, automation, it's something that every manufacturer, from the biggest to the smallest, really needs to be paying attention to and integrating. And it's a big reason why we're merging these two publications together. Is this isn't really a side stream anymore. It's becoming mainstream.
Yeah, and we've been around 10 years, and during that time, we've really grown with the industry as far as our coverage. Some of the topics, back then, were just in their somewhat infancy, especially on a production side, like additive manufacturing, which is becoming much more production-oriented and real-world applications. Also, the digitalization of the industry, and I don't think AI was really even thought about too much at that point. And now you can't shake a leaf without everything being AI oriented at this point. So the transition continues, and as Chris noted, there's one of the main reasons why we're integrating the publications, because it's so important to manufacturers of all sizes now. Even the definition of smart has transformed over the years. There's always different people have different definitions, same as Industry 4.0, but it's so commonplace now that it's part of everybody and needs to be. And that's one of the reasons why we launched Smart Shop Essentials, which debuted last year and will continue to be part of the new publication.
Yeah, and I like what you guys are saying. And when I look back on some of the issues of smart manufacturing, it started out explaining things like fog computing, digital twins, things that are, we talk about now a lot more, and people have a greater understanding of that have real consequences for real people. But we also put a face on innovation, right? So we profiled people who are making those advancements in manufacturing to not only achieve better productivity and quality, which are table stakes, right? But it also helps crack the code on something that it's just an increasing imperative across the industry, and that's workforce development and identifying those skills needed to move manufacturing forward in the years to come. And, case in point, even in the June issue, the final issue of Smart, we talk about, trends in training, explore trends, among other things, these things called micro-credentials, which is a segment of like micro-learning. And that's really about teaching and assessing specific technical competencies in, chunks in 40 to 60-hour increments. And that's a framework for getting new skills into the workforce faster. So you think about how smart manufacturing is evolving, things in training is evolving, workforce development is evolving. And those are the things that, we cover, we'll continue to cover because they are so important to the industry. And that transcends, both traditional processes and more advanced technology or software-based processes. Because at the end of the day, whether you're talking about Industry 4.0 or Industry 5.0, the central piece is the human element in all of this to make it all function harmoniously. So I know that speaking of, the technology side of the house, also in June, Kip Hansen, our intrepid contributing editor, wrote a piece specific to, large scale 3D prints for the aerospace industry. And I know, Steve, you had some thoughts on that one.
Yeah, Kip has covered the additive space like no one else over the years. He did a great series called Voices Amplified for us, which I highly recommend people looking back and revisiting some of those articles. The NASA or the large format printing shows just how much additive has progressed over the years. In the story that Kip did for the June issue, he's talking about an application from NASA, and they're printing this cradle that is taller than a person, and just amazing results that they've achieved with this. 50% reductions in lead times on some parts, and a 30 to 50% drop in cost, which is critical to, as we all learned at Rep Plus TCT this year, the industry is really looking for that type of advance where you're going from not just gee whiz type components, but actual savings and benefits. And, this is a great example of that, as well as the use of different materials and how 3D printing allows for that.
Yeah, we also, speaking of Rapid, we do the June issue takes a look at some of the highlights from Rapid, some really good photos, and some of the key takeaways, not just from the booths, but from some of the breakout sessions. So we encourage you check that out. And additionally, in the June issue, we've continued our Manufacturing USA Spotlight series, and that will also continue in manufacturing, engineering, and technology. But the June issue focused on Power America. And Power America is an institute that is accelerating the commercialization of next-gen silicon carbide and gallium nitride power semiconductor chips and electronics. And
That was easy for you to say.
well, if you talked to, the executive director, Victor Veliatis, it would be easy for you to say too, because one of the best parts of this job and the best parts of SMART and the best parts in working to continue this type of coverage in manufacturing, engineering, and technology is to get to speak with people like Victor, people who are way smarter than I am, who are doing things that impact our lives on a daily basis. One of the most eye-opening things that Victor shared with me in a conversation was that when he's having conversations, and he's, talking about conversations from conference rooms of businesses to the White House, many people don't even comprehend the value of keeping technology in the U.S. Instead, the conversation centers around reshoring. And reshoring is viewed as a success story. But, he says, how about if you stopped, IP and technology from going overseas in the first place? And he spends a lot of time evangelizing this point with the goal to be not to reshore tech that we invented here, but to manufacture competitively here and not allow the technology to leave. So, it's a great story. It's an interesting space. It has a ton of growth. It has a ton of impact, again, on how we live our lives and the things that we interact with, from EVs to consumer products to even the military space. So it aligns deeply with, strengthening the domestic supply chain and bolstering national security. And it's a really cool feature. It's something that we will continue to make an important priority in the pages of the print and digital editions of Manufacturing, Engineering, and Technology. And I would love to hear from you guys before we round things out, some of the highlights that you've enjoyed and will continue to enjoy seeing in its new era in the pages of MET.
I think that's a key point, as we will continue to cover these types of stories and expand on them. Technology and talent are the key focuses for the new publication, as well as SME overall is critical to our mission statement. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to with manufacturing, engineering, and technology, which we'll be sharing very soon.
Yeah, I think one of the most unique things that pops out to me that we did, and as we were talking and we were thinking about this, and I knew this conversation was coming up, and I knew there was going to be some sort of question about what did you like most, or what pops out to you the most. I hadn't even thought about this in forever, but in the May 2017 issue, we did an article on the integration and coming together of OT and IT.
That old chestnut.
Yeah, we talked with, folks from Dassault, GE, Cummins, and Microsoft for it. But what really stands out is we had a competition for someone to write a song and sing it. So we had sort of written this song about coming together, IT and OT, and we printed the lyrics in the issue, and then had a talent contest to, as we said, sing your heart out. And we got submissions from across the manufacturing industry of people picking up their guitar and singing these lyrics of come together right now, OTIT.
Is that on YouTube, Chris? Can people access this gem?
Or can you hum a few bars for us, Chris?
Oh, don't no. The listeners don't want that. They don't want that.
People pay me not to sing, Steve, not the opposite way around. I'm certain that somewhere videos exist of this, and now I do feel like this afternoon I'm gonna have to go down a rabbit hole and try to find that. But just those unique aspects of what smart manufacturing really brought to the industry, and having a little more fun sometimes, let's say, with getting across the importance of what are really critical topics. I mean, we have covered from ransomware to, other cyber defense, open standards. Can the U.S. remain competitive in the chip industry? The skills gap? All of these topics that really are so impactful to the industry, to the nation, and to the people who are working within it. And as you highlighted earlier, Amy, I think that is a really key piece that smart manufacturing focused on, which was, and I know we will continue to focus on in the new publication, of highlighting the people. Because it really is, yes, the technology is amazing, but it's the people who are creating that technology and leveraging that technology that really make the greatest impact.
I don't know if that we'll have another song contest. We may, but it highlights, not only the topics of smart innovation and creativity, but also the way that we present it, and we'll strive to continue to do that as we move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can't promise that I'm going to be captured on video singing anytime soon, but if y'all want to do that, that is fantastic. I will be a cheerleader on the sidelines. But it's a cool way to think about engaging the industry in different and new ways, and I think that's what the advent of MET brings to the table. And so I'm excited to start sharing additional stories and additional ways to tell stories beginning in August. And Steve and Chris, as always, it's such a pleasure to speak with you.
Before you sign us off, Amy, I would be remiss to say, Chris mentioned Brett, but there's been many other contributors in various ways to SMART. Barry Sloan was a key person, Mike Anderson, and I definitely want to give a shout out to our very own Amy Bryson, who's done a fantastic job over the last 3 years.
Hear, hear.
Hey, thanks, fellas.
And we'll continue with manufacturing, engineering, and technology.
Well, I'm excited. I think it's a natural evolution. It is exciting to think about what's possible, and we want to hear from our listeners and our readers too about what they'd like to see. And I want to again thanks to Steve and Chris for joining me in this conversation today. It really is something to celebrate. The end of an era, but the beginning of a brand new one, and we're very excited about it. So thanks to our listeners for tuning in and indulging us in this conversation. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast feed to stay up to date about what's happening in advanced manufacturing. Also, you'll find a host of resources by visiting us at advancedmanufacturing.org. Take care, everybody.